Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan AGAJAINIAN Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are actress, producer, Yelena Popovic, and artist R. Nelson Parrish. Writer, producer, director, Yelena Popovic also stars in the dramatic comedy that she produced and wrote called LA Superheroes, Illegal in Hollywood. A native of Belgrade, Serbia, Yelena started her career in modeling at the age of 15, and you went to work with Elite. They found you.
Yes, they did.
Top of the line modeling. Where'd they find you?
I was actually part of the competition, the Look of the Year in Belgrade. And then I started, actually I went to Milan when I was almost 16, 17 years old, and that's how I started my modeling career, and came to the United States when I was turning 18 in New York.
When you were in the competition, do they have a lot of girls from all over the country, or just in Belgrade?
No, this was a competition in Belgrade, and then, but you know, it was you know, that started my career, obviously, in modeling.
Were they all tall blondes like you with big blue eyes?
Actually, well, there are a lot of beautiful girls that compete in this competitions, but yeah, that it was just a stepping stone.
Did you want to be a model?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to be a model. I went to Milan, then I came to New York, and I worked with some big photographers. And
tell us the photographers, because I know that, like, you worked with Helmut.
Yeah, I worked with Helmut Newton. I was on my way to do 10-page spread in the cover of Italian Vogue with him. I was about 20, 21 at the time, and I thought that was it. I was about to make it as a model, and then the immigration case here, which was complicated, sort of ended my career. I couldn't leave the country for 10 years after that. And
you worked with Patrick de Marchelier,
I did. I photographed with him, with Michael Thompson. I did the...
And you did runway work with really fantastic, like Armani and Ferretti.
Yeah, Ferretti, and I was more of a, I did some runaway work, but it was mostly mostly photography.
It was mostly,
yeah.
Oh, I see. Did you see a difference in the style of those photographers when you were working with them?
Well, yeah, Helmut Newton is obviously different than Patrick is. They're all great photographers. They're all, Patrick is great with beauty. Helmut Newton
is really sensitive, isn't he?
Sensitive, amazing. Helmut Newton is Helmut Newton. We don't have to.
Helmut Newton is tough.
But you know what he told me? He said, "You don't want to be a model."
Did he?
Like, you don't want to be a model. I mean, you're an actress, right?
He did?
Yeah, I've had a lot of photographers tell me that.
Well, how? They must see it through the lens.
Well, maybe because my face maybe shows more on a real camera than on a still photography.
So you took him up on it, and you became an actress.
I was actually acting in a theater when I was a kid. I was 12, 11 years old, and we won a lot of competition, some competitions back home. But, when I was 14, 15, I wanted to be a model. I forgot about that, and then life brought me to acting. I came to Los Angeles. I couldn't leave the country for 10 years because of immigration issues.
In Los Angeles?
Yes.
You couldn't leave. You got here, but you couldn't leave.
But that's when my papers were all upside down, and I couldn't travel anymore. And then that pretty much ended my modeling career. I focused on commercial work, on the work I could do within the country.
Did you take acting lessons then?
I studied with Playhouse West. That's a very well-known acting studio here in Los Angeles. And I've learned everything I've learned there.
Oh, you did?
And I can say that I was able to direct my film because of the work that I've
So
done.
you
at
went
my
there
house.
all the time, and you
Yes.
participated in
I
what they were doing.
participated.
Did they help you get any acting jobs?
No, well, I was lucky, sort of. I got an agent. One of my first auditions, I booked this job. It was a small part, but it was in Castaway with Tom Hanks. Robert Zemeckis directed it. Then I was up for a lead in a movie called 15 Minutes. I got to one of the top two girls. I think it was me and Vera Farmiga. And Vera Farmiga ended up getting the part. And I was supposed to play a smaller part. John Hertzfeld gave me the part of a madam, which was a role opposite Robert De Niro and Edward Burns, and it was great for me. That would have been fantastic tape. But as I was going to shoot it in Paramount, they called me up and said, "Oh, sorry, Charlize Theron did us a favor.
Oh,
She's going to do a cameo." So I ended up getting nothing, and then
so the blonde, the other
yeah.
blonde, takes
no,
over.
well, she's a great actress, and obviously she was already a star. So I would take her over me.
Have you done a
anytime.
lot of TV? Have you done TV?
I have an accent. So when you have an accent, you're not going to do a lot of TV. TV is very particular about that. And but I've done a lot of TV commercials.
Oh, you
This
have.
is what I've done. And so I've a lot of obstacles: immigration, accent, all of that.
I think immigration. Did you take accent, whatever, to get rid of your
Reduction
accent?
classes.
Reduction classes.
I did.
Oh, you did.
I have two children. I at one point I had my son, my first son, who's 13 now, and I started writing my own stories, my scripts. So, and I figured, if anything's going to happen for me after a certain point, it's going to be because I'm going to write something
That you
and
know
that
about.
I really know about, and I'm going to try to make it into a movie. Because there is a reality in Hollywood, you're past a certain age, you haven't done anything, ain't going to happen, probably.
It's amazing, isn't
Yeah.
it? I can't believe that people really think that way, because you never know when something's going to happen.
Well,
And here's superheroes.
yeah.
How did you come? How did you get? This is your film. So what led you to this film?
Well, this is what led me to this. I wrote two scripts prior to this one. One was called Passport, that also had elements of my true story related to immigration.
Mhm.
But that one was more fictional. It was way more intense. It had Russian mafia and child kidnapping and all sorts of crazy
Things
stories.
people want to see.
Yeah, people want to see. But then they had some actors attached, good director. Even though it was a lower budget and we thought we could raise the money, we couldn't raise the money. The one before that was The Life of Greta Garbo. It's called Loveless.
Oh, were you going to be in it?
Yeah, I was gonna play her, and we had Academy Award-winning director attached, Academy Award-winning actor, and then after all of this, very good executive producer, they felt they couldn't raise the money based on just those two attachments, so they needed me to step down and let maybe Charlize Theron or Nicole Kidman play her. And I said no. So I believe my next project is
Will
going to
be
be
that. Will be the Greta Garbo. Yeah, that'd be great.
And then everything else fell apart. I said, well, what can I do that I can do myself, that I don't have to wait for anybody?
Oh, so you did a low budget film? Is
And
it a
that's
low
what I did.
budget?
Very low budget, guerrilla style, based on my true story of a struggling immigrant.
But I've seen clips of it, and it does not look low budget. It's the editing is great.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, nowadays we are lucky. We have like great cameras, great equipment. One can do movies for less.
So why did you name it L.A. Superheroes? It looked more
Well, it is a
cinema noir to me.
really.
A little bit,
Well,
yeah.
thank you for that. Well, I named it. First of all, this is a comedy. It's a comedy about immigration. It's a comedy about ridiculous relationships in Hollywood.
Yes,
And the
you've
whole
gone through all of those.
ridiculousness. So, and I figured my co-writer mentioned LA Superheroes as a title, and I thought about it, and I felt, you know what? I mean, anybody who comes to this town, and I've said this before, and struggles and just doesn't give up and doesn't sell out must be a superhero. So I figured these are the LA superheroes.
I see. Well, who did you write this with, your partner?
He co-wrote it with me, Alex Ziziadis. He also wrote the music for the film.
Ziziadis.
Yes.
He wrote the film music,
Yes.
too.
He wrote. He's a talented guy. He played the lead. He.
So you directed him and yourself?
I directed everybody.
You
Yes.
directed everybody?
I don't think I will direct myself again. I think that was too much of a stretch. I did not originally want to direct this. My plan was again to get a really good director, really good DP, but again, it became like a never-ending process. So I felt that
you wouldn't get it finished
yeah,
if you didn't get
exactly.
it started.
So I felt I really understand this. This is based on my life story, and I believe that I could direct this. That's how it.
It's totally autobiographical.
Well, I wouldn't say totally, but it's based on a lot of truth.
And what about Alexander? Is his story in it too?
No, his character, he's practically playing himself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was actually given an interview, and he was saying, "Well, I'm not an actor. I'm a musician," and they were making fun of him. Well, are we going to see why you're not an actor when we see the movie?
Yeah, that you can't act.
That you can't act.
And she can't direct you.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. I think we have done for what we've had. I think we've done a decent job.
Was that his first musical adaptation for film? I mean, to write the music for film?
Yes, it was. But he's a very talented guy.
So both of you are really learning as you're
Yes.
going along.
Yes, we were. Everybody. I mean, the producer, Alexander Potter, he co-directed it with me. He DP'd the film. He produced it, executive produced it. They're all first-time people here.
Where were the locations?
Mostly indoors, apartments.
But were they your apartments?
Outdoors.
Were
Well, my apartments, my other producers' apartments.
As I mean,
One of the producers is his name is Brian Foister. He's on the board of directors of Actor Studio in Los Angeles, and I was very fortunate to have the cast from Actor Studio, great actors.
Oh, you did.
Yes, and they were very happy to work with us on this project, and they're very happy with it. So I'm pleased.
Did you stay in budget?
We
Or did you have a budget?
No, we did not have a budget. That's the beauty about this. We did not have a budget because I've went through the experience of waiting for somebody to give me the money, and that was just like a nightmare. So, and I'm not the only one. There. If you would not believe how many people that they have names, they cannot raise the money. So when you know that, then you say, well, who am I to wait around for somebody to give me money? So that's how it happened. We had no budget. And as we went along, because we started the process, we were able to finish it.
Did you storyboard everything?
Everything we started. Yeah, we had a storyboard.
So that if you did one scene and then you didn't get to do another scene for weeks.
Well, that's exactly how it was. It was 17-day shoot, and we just went along and we shot it within a few months because when
Within a
everybody
few
was,
months, yeah.
when everybody was available. And you know what? It was a lot of fun.
And it worked.
It worked.
But was the editing difficult? Did you edit it?
I was in editing room. We had editors, but obviously I had to be there, and it was. It's a learning process.
Does it flow because of what they did?
It flows. It flows. The story's there, but it's just like it was exhausting for me to look at myself every day on the screen. I mean, that's just like a nightmare.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like seeing myself on the screen.
And that's funny because you're used to being in front of a camera, you're used to being on the runway, you're used to having people stare at you.
Yes, I really don't like looking at myself. I'm somebody who, which is good, I believe, for film. I'm not aware of the camera. I don't like to look at myself on the screen. That's
Do you take other kinds of lessons? Like dancing or singing or?
You know what? I did it as a kid. I just had acting lessons, writing lessons, very difficult life lessons. You know,
the immigration sounds like it's like
yeah.
on the top of your head.
Yeah, and then the good thing is like after all of this, I'm still able to have sense of humor, and that's why my story is comedic.
Are you a citizen?
I'm a permanent resident. I can become a citizen. It's just a matter of.
So you did finally do it.
Yes.
After 17 years.
After 17 years.
It's a long time to hang out.
Oh boy, yeah. It's I decide to laugh about it.
So we're going to see LA Superheroes. We will see it.
No.
And thanks for coming.
No, thank you.
Yelena, thank you very much. We'll be right back with artist R. Nelson Parrish. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Third generation Alaska-born artist R. Nelson Parrish earned an MFA from University of Santa Barbara. A former ski racer, a surfer, and a Santa Barbara-based athlete turned to a career in art, which has garnered shows throughout the United States, and he's even got a gallery in Oslo, Norway. So how did you get started from athletics to art?
You know, it was a really, really funny story, but in the sense that the high that I got from ski racing and doing athletics, I needed a replacement.
Oh.
And since I had broken my body so many times, I needed to have this outlet. And luckily my father said, why don't you take a photography class?
Oh, so you started with photography.
Started with photography. I was a black and white purist. I loved Ansel. I loved Robert Frank, Gary Winogrand.
When was that then?
So I shot when I was a kid, mostly, when I was like 10, but I never put any real effort into it. But then in college, when I couldn't race anymore, I took a photography class. And then I luckily had a professor that said, you should take the next class.
And then where was that college? You said Reno?
Reno, yeah.
And why were you at Reno?
Skiing scholarship.
Oh.
Was trying to be on the ski team there, and it just didn't work out.
And were you raised in Alaska?
Oh yeah, born and raised. Love it.
And
That's
then
home.
you went to is that the first time you went away? Was to Reno?
No, I mean you mean left
Yeah,
Alaska?
left Alaska.
We went through all over the country for races, but in terms of
So you were really competitive.
yeah, I mean not that I was as good as I wanted to be, but
You never
know,
are.
never are,
We never
no.
are.
Yeah.
But that's the competition within.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So then you started with photography. Then did you take drawing classes? Or did you take conventional art?
I did take conventional art, and actually it was very funny at the time at Reno. They didn't have an MFA program. And they created the BFA program to show the administration they could actually teach at the MFA level. And funny enough, I just happened to put some photographs in the show along with some other collage type pieces. And James Goebel was the curator, the juror.
Right.
And
the jury?
And the jury. And I wasn't an art student. I just took photography classes.
Oh.
And I was gone that week because I was actually going to take a job with the U.S. Senate and quit school. And I came back and I had won the show.
Oh, you did? So then
Yes.
you had to do a photography show?
I did photography show, and then I had this color theory collage stuff that I was working on. And then I got convinced to take on the BFA.
So you did do that then?
I did, and we had your requirements. I did a business degree
you did?
and an art degree at the same time. And then after that, I moved back to Alaska to be a welder. And then after that, I came to UCSB.
Well, you've been using your hands, and you've been using, obviously, in your sport, you use resin.
Yes,
I
do.
think. So
Yes.
because resin has influenced your work. This is informed here. Is it all resin?
Yeah, well, it's not all resin, and it actually wasn't necessarily wanting to work with my hands. It was more of wanting to work with color and not be a painter.
You didn't want to be a painter.
Didn't want to be a painter. I just...
Did you ever paint? Did you ever draw? Did you ever have that kind of...
Yeah, I mean...
Do you have that training?
I have some of it. You know, I mean, I can do architectural drawings, and I can do sketches, but sit me down for a portrait. And
So where did the style come from? What brought this style to the
for
foreground?
fruition,
Yeah.
a lot of it was that it was this connection between athletics and, honestly, seeing my first Gerhard Richter painting.
Oh, Richter with the squidgies.
Yes. I mean, like, I was at SF MoMA. I was 19, and it was my first aha art moment.
Oh, it was.
And
You really related to that?
Oh, it just completely
But
gripped
look,
me. Yeah.
I see it. I see it.
A little bit of that.
And a little bit. But not in the totems.
Well,
I don't see it in the totems.
Well,
Those
this
are
is an
different.
older totem.
Oh.
And this was about, well, because the big ones are about 8 feet tall. They don't fit in here.
Yeah.
And so this is you can see a little bit of the evolution. This was made within the last 6 months for the Telluride AIDS benefit. And there's 14 others that graciously got purchased for charity.
Well, let's get into the resin.
Mhm.
How did you know how to work with it?
No, absolutely not.
So how did you learn this?
Self-taught. A lot of trial by fire.
Do you use
Absolutely.
protective gear?
Yeah, no, it's I've got a full face mask and a full Tyvek suit, and surprisingly, I have a small allergy to the resin.
Oh, you do?
I do.
How'd you figure that out?
Overexposure.
Time after time.
Time after time. But I've actually switched to a bioresin made here in California.
And that's what this is?
That's what this is and it's derived of pine sap and biodiesel in a nutshell.
Really?
And it's all made in the USA. It's non-toxic, no off-gassing.
Really?
Oh, it's great
How
stuff.
do you use it? Like this piece right here. Can I pick it
Yeah,
up?
absolutely.
Oh, it's heavy. I'm going to show the back just to show.
Sure.
This is how it hangs on the wall.
Yeah, a little French cleat.
That's great. And then, what do? You put another cleat on the wall? Is that what it is?
Well,
and then
that's
it hangs
actually
on top of
that's
it?
actually both of them at the moment. So
it
one
is. So one comes. I see.
comes off. Easier for shipping that way. Pieces
Okay.
don't get
And
lost.
then this, fantastic. Tell us about it. How does it start? Do you have a block of wood here?
So it always starts with a piece of wood at
Mm-hmm.
the moment, and all the wood that I use is actually birch, which is referential to my home in Alaska.
Is it heavy?
Birch? It's a lighter wood, but it's
lighter
strong.
wood? Uh-huh.
It's more, it has a really nice glow to it.
And we get that from Alaska?
I do most of the time, yeah. And so that starts, and then really the whole idea with any of these pieces is about trying to capture the feeling of what it means to be in a space.
And that's what this, I'm going to hold this again because I think this part of it shows the layers.
Oh, absolutely. So the whole process is a kind of a...
So you start with the wood, then what do you put on next?
Well, typically I do some sort of resin work, pigmented resin work.
The next.
And then it's just kind of casting and painting and casting and painting. They're like growth rings on a tree.
Do you sand?
You know, I use everything pretty much but a paintbrush.
You don't paint, but you sand.
I use sand.
How do you put the pigment on?
Typically with either a palette knife or spray it.
Oh, is it wet, the pigment?
Sometimes.
Is it? I see. It's
Squeegee.
not. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
What else do you use?
I use pretty much everything but a paintbrush. I mean, my favorite paintbrush, I think, is my 8-inch wheel grinder, actually.
And what does that do?
A lot.
What does a grinder do? Does
well,
it polish?
Sometimes. Depends on what you have on it.
And then how does this, do you have a mold? Does this go into a mold?
I've stepped up to a mold. The curing process is a 3-day process for any layer. And
for each layer.
For each layer.
And that's that good environmentally
The friendly sound, yes.
Right.
And the thing is, it's the resin is as viscous as water for pretty much 3 days.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. So when you go to
is
sleep
it
at
that
night.
thin as water?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So when you go to sleep at night and your mold isn't watertight, you've got a lot of resin on the floor of your studio the next morning. So you learn quickly.
You learn what to do. What do you call this art? Do we have a name for it?
Mine. I don't know.
Nelson Parrish art. But what is there? Is there some style, or is it abstract, or what? What would we call
you
it?
could probably classify it as somewhere between abstract expressionism and minimalism. There's a lot
minimal.
There's a lot of structuralist to it. There's a lot of Joseph Campbell narrative elements to it.
Do you do just one color paintings too?
No.
Like one color? No. So it's
Not
not
yet.
a field paint. So they're not field.
Yeah, it's not
color field.
Well, but with color field, they were trying to enwrap the viewer in color.
Right.
And I'm trying to achieve the same thing, but it's not just about color. So you could say I was influenced by color field painting.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this one.
Okay.
Because this reminded me of that.
Okay.
What is it?
It's magic.
It is, really, it's beautiful. This goes way deep, and this part comes way out. And it looks like the paint on a car.
Well, and that particular patina was mimicked after automotive paint. And I use automotive paint quite a bit. Yes, absolutely.
Do you spray it?
Sometimes. Sometimes I'll put it on with a roller. It really is, I'm not wedded to any material or medium.
But we like to know what's going on in your studio. Do you have this like doctor's table of all different kinds of
It's
instruments?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like if you put a surgeon's table and aircraft manufacturing.
Oh, yeah, there.
It's kind of the same.
Yeah. So these paintings are going to be shown at the Edward Cella Gallery?
So these particular paintings are not.
Not, but I mean, you're having a show at
Having shows. Street See Sky is.
Oh, tell us about that. What does it mean, Street See Sky?
Well, it's all about the movement through the landscape, because that's really what my work is about. It's about the color and movement of a landscape and interacting with the landscape. And so See Street Sky was essentially influenced by Southern California.
What does it mean? See?
Street See Sky. So
all together, one word?
it's the zoom.
I got
You know,
it. Okay.
It's like Ed Ruscha. He's got a zoom angle in all of his paintings.
Yeah.
It's that
Oh, you mean when he does, yes.
the
okay.
diangles.
Uh-huh.
It's the same as when you scan the horizon, like when you're driving the PCH, and it's Street See Sky. That's how you look, and it's how you. And
So
that's,
you just made one word out of it.
yeah, it's to invoke.
So how many pieces at Edward Cella's gallery? It's not a very big space,
It's
is
not
it?
a very good space, but we managed to put in about 107.
Wow, you're kidding. I noticed some of them are this size.
Yes, so this is the smallest.
And you have some totems. You have one beautiful bluish totem.
Big Blue, yes.
Yeah. A Big Blue it's
Big
called?
Blue. Well,
Oh,
he's number 113, but Big Blue.
good for me.
Yes.
Big Blue. And where did the totems come from?
So the totems are inspired from Alaska, obviously from my background, but it also was inspired by when you take essentially like a surfboard or a pair of skis or a car like Cadillac Ranch, and you stick it into the ground,
Right.
it looks like a totem pole to me.
Right. Exactly.
And the idea of a totem is that there's this interaction with the land, there's a narrative element to it.
And then how do you decide what's going on here?
You know, some days it's 100% preconceived, and then others it's just like abstract expressionism where you feel it.
Can you use both sides of this
Sure.
totem?
Absolutely.
Oh, so you can turn that around? Oh, how about turning it up?
Sure.
Got it? Oh, great. Well, you've built these kind of abstract things, but one of your first commissions was a guitar on the top of the Roxy.
Top of the Roxy.
How'd you know how to make a guitar?
I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't. I'm kind of a cowboy that way, in the sense that you just go for broke and you see what happens. But it was a very interesting scenario where Gibson and the Sunset Strip were working together to get rededicated, and they wanted things that was indicative to the culture of the Sunset Strip. And so what I said is, you know, there's nothing more Americana than cruising the Strip, you know, from the 50s and 60s. And so I said, I will photograph cruising the Strip for 3 days using time-lapse photography.
Oh, yes, how great.
To try and get the sensation of that feeling. And then I used those photographs and retranslated them onto a 10-foot Gibson Les Paul to be essentially a portrait or a totem of the Sunset Strip experience.
So how long ago was that?
That was 3 years ago.
Oh, it was not too long ago.
No, it was really interesting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I think Edward Cella found somebody really interesting from Santa Barbara, because that's where he was, right?
He was. Very lucky.
Yeah.
Ed walked past my thesis show at UCSB and picked me up like 2 months later, and I've been with him since.
Good for you. And thank you for coming to visit us today.
No, thank you.
And thanks for watching us. Keep writing to my email, JAQUINN1 @AOL.com. See you next time.